Hey, what's up? This is me post-recording the video. This video contains heavy spoilers for the main story of this game as well as post-game. Pretty much, I would not recommend watching this video until you have completed all of the layers yourself. But yeah, I'll see you later.
NEWSOUP!
Yo, what's up? Welcome to NEWSOUP. Alright, hold on, let me do it again. Yo, what's up? It's Jacob from NEWSOUP. Welcome to the first video on the channel, believe it or not. I'll probably make a video later talking about what NEWSOUP really is, but just the basic idea is this is going to be my channel for like Nintendo content and that kind of stuff. I figured today we would start with a pretty basic video. I've put together a tier list maker of all the layers in Bonanza, Donkey Kong Bonanza, a game which I have spent more hours in the last 3 days than Mario Kart World in the last month. So that goes to show how much I enjoy it. I think the game's phenomenal. I will have a review on this channel probably within a week or two. It's going to be longer than I thought it was going to take, especially because I want to do a couple tier list videos just to, get them out. Honestly, the inspiration for this video was just like, I want to make the content that I wish I could see on YouTube. So it's like, I want to see people rank the layers and stuff of this game, and yeah, I don't know. I want to make content that I want to see. So this is just sort of that first step. Yeah, so what this video is it's a tier list of all the worlds, which are called layers or sub layers in BK Bonanza. As you can see, I've got a tier list ready to go. Here are the tiers, I should say. Let me make sure scroll up to the top here so you guys can see it. So I've got top tier 1 to 5. So the way I wanted to make this was I kind of wanted to sort of section them off. So we have small layers, which are the 15 through 17. We'll talk about that when we get to it. We're probably going to go bottom. I actually don't know. I think we'll probably go in the order of they appearing, and then we're going to switch things up, obviously, as we go. Yeah, so I wanted to have like a set limit in every amount. So you have top tier, pretty good tier, all right, and then small layers, which the small layers are the Divide, the Junction, and the Forbidden layer. Yeah, I'll just hop into it. The first one is Ingot Isle Cave In, I think is what it's the full name of it, the government name of it. And when you first play through the game, like the first go around, Ingot Isle is very much the basic tutorial. I think there are 3 bananas that you can get here in the main story, like the first go around. But once you beat the game, this area does unlock, and it has a very good amount of post-game content. Not only are there way more regular moons out there, but there's a lot of challenge levels. This is where you can build some of the challenge levels. You have to like give gold to Grumpy Kong, and he can build you like a boss rush, a battle rush, and then I think there's a couple other things you can build. There's also how you get the invisibility tie, in case you were wondering. But yeah, no, I like Ingot Isle Cave-In. I think that it acts as a solid post-game hub. And it makes sense because you don't really have full access to it in the main story. I do think that it's tough to rank this one just because it is kind of insignificant when you first play through it, but then obviously it does matter later. I would give this one all right. I think that I think Ingot Isle Cave-In is really determined on how much you really like the bonus stages. Like if you're really into the bonus stages and that's the only thing you really care about, then I think Ingot Isle Cave-In is probably gonna be up there, pretty good or top tier. But I think right now I'm gonna keep it in all right. Next we got Lagoon Lair. Lagoon Lair. So I'm kind of mixed on Lagoon Lair because I think that aesthetic-wise, it's one of the strongest in the game. I think that the idea of the first main world of this game, of a game where you're going into the core of the earth, is like this super bright, lagoon with like lots of bright colors, lots of water. I think that's such like a fun way to introduce the level design in this game. But there are definitely a lot of problems with this level. One main problem for me was I think it's really easy. I remember when I first played through Lagoon Lair, in my first playthrough. It was obviously fucking awesome. Like that, the novelty of being able to fully have control of Donkey Kong in this whole new 3D world is awesome, and that novelty doesn't grow old for me, at least yet, or hasn't grown old for me yet. But I think Lagoon Lair definitely is very slow paced. Oh shit, wait, my mouse is dying. One sec. I think Lagoon Lair is kind of a mixed bag. I really do like the aesthetic of Lagoon Lair, and I think it works as a really good introduction to the new moveset that Donkey Kong has in this game. But I will get into that later, because I do think there's a level later, not too much later, that does the introduction of his new mechanics a lot better. I think that Lagoon Lair does act as a very functional first world, though. You do get the Kong Bananza, and you do have the obviously the big reveal of Odd Rock being Pauline. You know, who would have known? But yeah, I like Lagoon Lair, and in post game I'd say it's about the same. Like, it's very easy. Lagoon Lair, the boss itself is probably the easiest boss in the game, and just the whole layer itself is not too bad, but it's also the introduction layer, so it makes sense. And I think that the completion rating and the banana sort of coverage around the world is pretty good. And yeah, there are some fun areas. I like I like the whole like second sub layer with like the shop and stuff where like the Kong Elder is. I think that whole block is fun, as well as the first block, the first sub layer. It feels super 1-1, which I think really is a very solid introduction to the game, but obviously it doesn't do too much, so it's kind of be hard to rank. I would say probably in the pretty good tier right now, but I would say near the end of the pretty good tier. But yeah, so Lagoon Lair is cool. Next is Sub Layer 200. This is the only photo that for some reason I messed up on. But this is the Hilltop Layer. And I actually really like the Hilltop Layer. I think that the Hilltop Layer, I was thinking about this earlier. I think that the Hilltop Layer does a really good job of introducing the more advanced mechanics like Turf Surf and Chunk Jump. Like, they do a good job in this layer of sort of like very easily introducing you to these like more advanced mechanics, which I think is fun. But that's really the only reason why this sub-layer exists story-wise, I'm pretty sure. Aesthetic-wise, it's pretty basic, but I kind of like it. Like, I don't know, like, I like the big rolling hills and like this like really wide out area. This is a medium-sized layer. So there's 3 different sized layers in this game, in my opinion, or 3 different sized sub-layers. There's the small layers, which is like the divide and the junction. Then there's the medium-sized layers, like your hilltop. What's another medium-sized? Resort layer is another medium-sized layer. And then you have the large layers like lagoon or canyon or forest. Really, any of the Bananza ones plus a few extra ones. But yeah, so I think that lagoon is a very good introduction. But hilltop, for being a medium layer, definitely goes by really quick. I will say the thing about the medium layers is the pacing is kind of weird, because the story elements for the medium layers are always really easy. It's usually just get to this area to go down to the next full sub layer. So there isn't really that much of a challenge in this layer in terms of like getting to the next thing. It basically just wants you to learn how to chunk jump, wants you to learn how to turf surf. And yeah, I mean, but I do like the aesthetic of this level, and I think that the challenge levels are also pretty good. I think overall this level is definitely a win. And I think that it actually does a better job of introducing the new mechanics than Lagoon Lair, because like the way that Hilltop kind of works, and I don't know if I'm gonna add videos while I'm talking or not. I mean, maybe I probably will, but I think the cool thing that Hilltop does is, like, one, it really introduces the fractones in terms of like, oh shit, like, okay, these are what these guys are, this is what they're all about. It also, like, the only way to progress in certain areas of that world in the story is to use the mechanics. Like, you can just break all of the mud, but you could also just turf surf over it, and it makes it way easier. And same thing with like the chunk jump area where you have to like go up this little mountain thing. I think that overall the game does a pretty good job, or Hilltop, sorry. Overall, I think Hilltop does a pretty good job of introducing the new mechanics. And yeah, I like Hilltop. I would say that overall as a layer, I actually do think it's better than Lagoon Lair. Canyon Lair. So Canyon Lair, I think, is the first layer where things can either get like really good for a player, or like you're gonna start to really not like a lot of this game. Canyon Lair is really, really big. It's not the most bananas in the game, but it's damn close. I think it's like might be 80 total, and the most is like 84 in a sub layer. So there's a lot of bananas to find, and I did find, at least in this layer, that a lot of the bananas are really, really close to each other, or just kind of dumb places. This layer to me felt the most like Mario Odyssey in terms of like, oh, here's a moon, or here's a moon, or here's a moon. Like, it felt like this level was kind of sort of, basically everywhere you went, you would get a different sort of dopamine rush, which is not a bad thing necessarily, but this layer really made it really obvious to me in terms of that. But yeah, so this layer's main mechanics are minecarts, as well as kind of just exploring more of the boom rock stuff. This layer doesn't really do too much new things in terms of like adding new mechanics, but it does have a couple boss fights, including your first fight against Grumpy Kong. But yeah, Canyon Layer story-wise was actually pretty good. I liked all the bosses. Mad Mixer is a fun boss on the minecarts. Yeah, and Stompin' Clomper is kind of one note, but it's cool that he's there. And this level does really feel like a Grumpy Kong level. Like, it does feel like, oh shoot, like, okay, this is the Grumpy Kong's lair, and you gotta F shit up. And I liked it. I think that when I was going back and 100%ing it, I did feel like it did feel really stretched out in kind of an artificial way. The minecarts obviously are really cool, but the layer itself is massive. Like, I think there's 3 sub layers on this one, and they're all super, super wide on the x-axis, but mostly because there's lots of minecarts and stuff, and I didn't dislike that, but like we'll talk about later on, there's ways to do minecart levels where it doesn't feel like, oh, you only have to progress by using the minecart. So I don't know, I was kind of on that, especially in post-game. That wasn't super fun. But yeah, overall, I do think this level is a success, and because it's the first major level in this game, it definitely will have the most criticism thrown towards it, because it, you know, has a big job to do as being the first major level. But yeah, no, I think this level is pretty good to all right. I think I'm gonna say, I'd say between Hilltop and Lagoon for right now. I think that Hilltop, as an introduction to the new mechanics and aesthetic-wise, to me, just stands out a bit more, but both pretty good. Next, we're on to the Divide, and I will say, I don't think any of the small levels in this game are bad, necessarily. They're just transition levels. They're not supposed to be anything more than transition levels. And the Divide is definitely it's not the weakest out of the 3, but it's definitely, you know, nothing crazy. The one thing is the music in this layer is amazing. The music, I mean, I'm probably gonna play it during this section of the video, but holy, the music is so fucking good in this section. Compared to Mario Odyssey, where it's like, oh, do you want to go to this kingdom or this kingdom, and then you have to go to the other kingdom anyways. I did like that the choice of what layer you wanted to go to next felt a little bit more like intense. Obviously, you had to go do both before you progressed in the game, but I liked how intense it felt, and it felt like I was making a real choice, which I think is important story-wise. I do think that this game's story, well, again, nothing special, is the best story Nintendo has made in a really, really, really long time for, you know, a platformer or like something like that. So I think that overall, this level, or this layer, does do a good job of raising the atmosphere, raising sort of like what's going to happen. I remember personally, like when I first got to this level in the story, I really, really was like entranced by the music and the switch blocks mechanics. I was just like, okay. I think at this point, I was like leaning forward a little bit in my chair. I was like, all right, I see you, game. Like, okay, we're doing something a little new now, huh? We're doing something a little new. So yeah, the Divide, while nothing special, it's definitely going to go in the small layer section. it's pretty good. It's not bad by any means. Next up is the freezer layer. Now, I don't know what you guys, say, maybe you guys can drop this in the comments below, but I did the freezer layer first and then the forest layer, and I actually did spend much more time in the freezer layer initially, and I actually really liked it. I think that I do have a couple gripes with the design, but my only big gripe is that the top sub-level of this layer is constantly 1,000% snowing. It's constantly blizzarding. So, like, it's not necessarily bad, but it did make clearing out the top level in terms of fossils and bananas a little annoying, especially because the radar it's not super distinct in the snow. So, I'm not it wasn't super great. But I think that that's like really my only big gripe with this layer. I think that the idea of an ice cream snow layer and then a lava chocolate layer I think is so smart. This layer in general felt like the first layer where the game was really being like, okay, like, do whatever the fuck you want. Like, you know what? We're gonna just fucking do this shit, and we're gonna give you these crazy concepts, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. And I loved it. I think that the boss on this one, Poppy Kong, is also pretty cool. I think there's another boss on this. Yeah, there's also like the lava roller dude, who was actually pretty fun. Which also uses the Bananza, Zebra Bananza in the boss fight, which is cool. Yeah, I think this layer is just really tight. Besides from my little nitpicks about the top level being 1,000% blizzardy, I think this layer is just really fun. The exploration is pretty good. It's because Zebra Bananza isn't really like a quality of life Bananza, the level design doesn't really utilize it that much, except for very certain areas. So it does feel like you can kind of explore this area however you want, and I think that works well. Like, it's a very good size to where it doesn't feel super spread out, but not like super closed in either for a big layer. And I like it a lot. So I think freezer layer would maybe be my first one in the top tier, but it could move down. I'd say it's around the 5 level right now, but we'll have to see how things go. Forest layer. So yeah, forest layer. The forest layer, I spent the least time on the major levels going through it. I think at that point my brain was just like, I want to know what happens next in the story, so I kind of just breezed through the story of forest level. But the story of forest level fucking hits. Like, this idea of going to the Eggshell Hotel and sort of just like exploring this like poison swamp that fucking Grumpy Kong made because of the environmental damage of the drill is a cool concept. I will say I'm not the biggest fan of the forest swamp aesthetic anymore. I think that a lot of recent Nintendo games kind of have relied on that for their forest levels, and I'm not a big fan of it. I think it's a little bit of a shoe-in at this point, and I would like to see the next forest level in a platformer. Well, I don't know. It's tough because sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't. I just think that the poison swamp needs to be in a different aesthetic. You know what I'm saying? Like, put that in a different aesthetic. But yeah, I really like forest level, and the Ostrich Bonanza is amazing. I think that it probably is the best or second best Bonanza, full stop. And it's also really fun to use. The music slaps with it. And I really like the boss fight in this one, the Abracadabra, or whatever it's called. I love the fact that this game mixes up how it does its boss fights. Like, it doesn't ever... all the boss fights have health bars, but not all the boss fights feel the same. Like, for this one feels like a very traditional, like, Mario fight in terms of it's basically just 3 hits to kill him. Like, it just... Obviously, it's lots of punches, but it's 3 hits. But you can't really phase skip in it. So it feels like you have to be patient and sort of let the boss do its thing. As it flies all over the map, which I think is really cool. I think that this one is one of the bigger ones on the x-axis, but that is due to the fact that Ostrich Bonanza makes things really easy to get to place. And yeah, I really like this level, man. I think it works really well as a stopping point to just enjoy exploration. Like, I think that the point of having the divide so early in the game was to sort of allow players to sort of really take their time with these layers. You know what I'm saying? Like, basically going back to back with 2 massive layers is just kind of saying, all right, guys, just take your time. Like, just enjoy this massive game. And I think both the freezer layer and the jungle layer are, or not jungle, both the freezer layer and the forest layer do a great job at sort of being this game's meat in a way, being like the big bulk of the game, or being part of the big bulk in the game. And yeah, I dig the forest layer, man. I think the forest layer is also top tier, and I think it's better than freezer layer. They're close to me, but forest layer does do a better job of making the progression from moon to moon easier. Like, something I will say in freezer layer, I did feel like you have to kind of open up your map, look at like, oh, this chunk of an area I should go check out and go to. I feel like with Ostrich Bonanza and the forest layer in general, like it was a lot easier to kind of go around. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on forest layer. Definitely a top tier layer. Low-key, I think freezer layer might have to go down soon, bro. I might have to go down. Next, we got the junction, and sorry guys, sorry junction fans out there, I'm not really loving this layer. It's the layer you spend the least amount of time on. It just acts as the coming together point of the divide. It does have a couple decent challenge levels in it. And I will count the Void Kong fight to this layer, the first Void Kong fight to this layer, because even though you do go to previous layers, you do start the fight on this layer. So it's not that bad. And I actually really do like the Void Kong fight. I think that the idea of fighting an enemy that just flies around and just puts literally whatever he can think of in your way is so funny. And the Void Kong's design, I think, is phenomenal. So I think that really the only point of this layer is that boss fight's really good, but you do 2/3 of that boss fight on different layers anyways. So yeah, the junction, very one note, not anything special. It would be maybe better than the divide, except for the fact that the divide soundtrack is that good. So let's throw the junction as the worst level in DK Bonanza, but again, asterisk because it's a small layer, so it doesn't really count. So yeah, so you have this very intense boss fight with Void Kong. You finally send the drill continuing downward, and what layer do you end up at? None other than the resort layer. I really like the resort layer. I think that the resort layer does a really good job of taking new concepts and old concepts and combining them together to make a really like standout level. So the main concept in this level is the rainbow block, which I think is one of the best chunks in the game, one of the best materials in the game, which is kind of a funny thing to say, like rating the materials in a video game, but I really like the rainbow chunk, and it's super fun in this level. This level is wide as fuck. It is a very big x-axis level, and it's not super small on the y-axis either. It's just a big old block of content. You kind of have to navigate it with either the zebra bonanza or surf, the water at least, and I think that's super fun. The idea of every mechanic in the game having optimal usage in certain areas is really cool to me. So the fact that like surf ability that like I don't think is that special in most layers. Like, I mean, you really can only use it in resort layer and maybe a couple other layers now that I'm thinking about it. But it's so cool, and I think that the fact that they allowed an ability like that to shine on a layer like this is really cool. The fruit concept is really dope, and while the story for this level is really basic, you just basically climb up to the top of a watermelon and break it open, which is a little sad that the watermelon is gone after you break it forever. Yeah, I mean, this level's fun, and it's a very good pace breaker, because it's not that big. I think it's like 40 something bananas, and it's just one fossil type, so it's pretty basic to explore. And it's fun. Like it's spread out, but it's spread out in a way to where there's not like a bajillion bananas on top of each other. So you actually do have to go find, you know, the loot and stuff. And I think that works really, really well. I think that this is probably the best medium layer in the game. And I'm comfortable with putting it in my top 3 or my top 5. It will be in my top 3 probably. Next up, the Tempest layer. So the Tempest layer was actually, believe it or not, the Tempest layer was the first layer in the game that I had not seen before. Like, you know, I watched a decent amount of the trailers and stuff. I tried to avoid spoilers. I did avoid spoilers for the most part. But this is the first layer that I had not seen in the trailer, or any of the trailers. And this is also one of the Bananzas. You do get one of the Bananzas, the Elephant Bananza. You do not see that one in any of the trailers or any of the promo material. So this layer functionally works as, hey, there's a fuck ton of content that you had no idea exists in this layer, or in this game. I think the resort layer acts as like a very, very good chill halfway point. The Tempest layer is where things start to ramp up in both difficulty and just everything. The general story of this level is whatever. Basically what it is there's this Blusterwing enemy that has a mask made by Void Kong on it that makes it evil. You fight it a whole bunch of times, chase it around the map. And this story is kind of whatever. It's not really that important. But everything else about this level fucking works. The idea of it being a rainy level that's also a lava level, I think, is really, really cool. Elephant Bananza as a Bananza is broken. It's it's super strong, and it pretty much was my favorite Bananza after I got it. I think it works super, super well, and it's just really cool. Yeah, I like this layer a lot, man. I think that there are a couple gripes. I really think that the story is just super not fun on this level. I don't like just chasing the Blusterwing around the map a whole bunch. I think that is not super, super fun. But overall, this layer is chill. But yeah, this layer's story is probably the weakest element of it, but I'm not going to let that really detract from how good of a layer this is. Post-game, it's been one of my most fun just because the way that the challenges are set up in this part are actually challenging. So it's not just like, oh, I can slap my sonar button and find a banana and go find it. Like, you actually do have to think about some of the bananas after you slap the sonar, which I think is, you know, it's good. It's a little thing, but it does matter in the overall enjoyment of the game. And I think this layer definitely did serve as like a, holy shit, like, what the fuck? Like, oh my god, there's so much content left. So yeah, I think this layer, to me, I think I have to put it low top tier, and I'm going to move Freezer layer down to pretty good. And I might have to move Lagoon layer, man. I really do like the Lagoon aesthetic, though, so we'll have to see how that goes. Next up is the Landfill layer, and yeah, I don't like this one. I don't like the Landfill layer, and I think the reason why I'm not a huge fan of it is kind of due to the way it's built. The landfill layer is a medium layer, so it's not like you have to do a lot of work or whatever to 100% it. But this layer does struggle because of the main mechanic that's utilized in it, which is digging. Basically what this layer is just a massive amount of dirt all on top of each other, and you just have to basically just move straight down through the layer to get to the bottom, to get to the next sub layer. I didn't love it, to be honest with you. The camera, I will say, this level did make me understand the out of bounds camera a lot more, but I still just didn't think it was very good, and I did have a couple problems in this level with the camera that, like, yeah, just weren't that good. The aesthetic of this layer just also doesn't work for me, just brown dirt. So yeah, I mean, I get the idea of this layer, like it's supposed to be like, oh, this is you know, where all the trash throughout all of the different world goes to, and it's just like this whole situation, and I think that aesthetic is fine as an idea, I just don't think it was executed very well, just because of how muted everything looks. Yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of this layer. I think that there are a lot better layers later in the game, like pretty much right after this layer. And this one just kind of was like a transition layer for me in a way. So I am going to put this one in the alright tier. And I think that this is probably the worst layer in the game after the small layers. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents. My 2 cents on the matter. That's my 2 cents on the matter. Next up is the racing layer. So this layer is a little bit of a mixed bag for me. Obviously, Diddy and Dixie coming back with Rambi to do this little racing mini game is really, really, really cool. And you know, nostalgia-wise, or just, you know, the fact that Diddy and Dixie are even in this game at all is super dope. But this layer is super boring. Besides from the race, aesthetic-wise, it doesn't really do anything new. The race itself, I do think the race is fun the first time you do it, but it's not that good. Like, it's a cool concept, and I do think that if there is DLC for this game, I very well could see some sort of DK racing, that sort of racing layer get expanded out a little bit. Maybe some new courses, maybe some online mode situation. I don't really know what they could do. But yeah, the racing layer is cool because of the nostalgia throwback, but besides from that, doesn't really do much. I think I would probably throw it in between Ingot Isle and the landfill layer in the alright category. Alright, next up, the Radiance layer. The Radiance layer. I genuinely, when this layer happened, I was so surprised. It felt a little fucked up when I played this layer, and I'll explain why. I think that this layer actually is one of the best mechanical layers in the whole game in terms of the mechanics, everything used. The Snake Bonanza is the final Bonanza in the game, and it's the one that you unlock on this layer. And I think it is very, very not good. But on this layer, it's utilized extremely, extremely well. And the Radiance layer really, to me, felt like, at least story-wise, when I first played it, it felt like, oh my god, like I'm actually getting to the end of this game. And I really did think that this was going to be the last big level. I think there was at least one more big level after this, but this one is fantastic. The music, the story-wise implications, all of it is just so clean on this level, and it does definitely feel like the best designed Bonanza unlock level in terms of like, okay, there are things that you can't do or you can kind of do without the Bonanza, but once you unlock the Bonanza, this whole level, everything unlocks. And I really did appreciate that. I think that the Radiance layer definitely aesthetic-wise is a little bit derivative of some other layers. But it does do its own thing near the end, with like the super bright sky, and I really did like that. I thought that, again, it's just so nice to see variety and how the levels look even this late in the game. Like, it was just so cool to be like, oh cool, like this layer, it looks so dope. And like the artificial sun thing was just like very, very interesting to me. Yeah, this layer is peak, man. I can't express enough that when I first played this layer, I really did realize, like, holy shit, this game is massive. After you beat the racing layer, you're like, okay, like, how much more of the game is there actually? You know what I'm saying? And there you go. This game just hits you with even more content. So yeah, this layer is really, really good. And, you know, finalizing the Bonanza. Yeah, this is just peak. I'm putting this one, so far, I think this is the highest rated layer I will put in this category, in this game, so far. But yeah, it's really, really good. It really is so good, so good. All right, next up is the groove layer. So the groove layer takes a very interesting turn. This is the first layer that I actually think was story first thought about. comparatively to gameplay first. And I love the fact that these characters do have a bit of a character arc throughout the game. Obviously, Pauline has a character arc in terms of not wanting to sing and then singing. Donkey Kong doesn't really have a character arc. He's just Donkey Kong, which I think also works pretty well. But Poppy Kong has a character arc. She does not like you at the start. She literally is like spying on you from the start of the Lagoon layer. She's spying on you. And she, you fight her twice, and I feel like at this point she was just kind of done with what Void Kong was selling, the bullshit that he was selling her, and so she was just like, fuck that, I want to just do my own thing. And I think that works really well. I think that because the main enemies in this game were Kongs, it allows them to have characterization further than just being bad guys, which I think is super dope. I think it's super dope. Enough about that. The groove layer itself is pretty forgettable in my honest opinion. Story mode wise, or not story mode wise, main game wise. The challenges there are really basic. You basically go through 3 challenge levels that are super basic with this swap mechanic. It doesn't really do anything for me. I don't necessarily dislike the level. I just think that it's pretty one note. But obviously the story part of it is pretty cool. And I did like some elements of it. I don't know. It didn't really work for me that well. Like, there was nothing that really was like, oh my god, like this layer is peak. And right now I'm trying to determine, do I like it more than Lagoon layer? And I don't think I do. I think this is at the top of alright. It's at the top of alright. And again, subjective. You know what? I think because of the post-game content, I will have to move Lagoon layer up a little bit, or sorry, groove layer up a little bit and Lagoon layer down, just because I don't know. I think that just having more like actual stuff to do, like not just like choose your own adventure, like go find a banana, but actually having stuff to do is cool. So I like groove layer a lot for that aspect. But yeah. All right, next up, this is crazy. So what I'm going to show you guys, there's 3 layers left. There's Feast Layer, Forbidden Layer, and Planet Core. All of these levels are good for their own right. So I actually think that Feast Layer is the best layer in the game. Which is the best layer in the game. I think that when I first touched down in Feast Layer, I was genuinely shocked. When I first opened up the map and saw how many bananas were in this level. It is chock full of content. And one of the best things about this layer is there isn't one Bananza that they want you to use. In fact, they actually have challenges for all the different Bananzas in this layer. So it does feel like a culmination of, everything you've done so far. The aesthetic is also fucking dope. I think this idea of it being like this fast food amusement park where you have to throw salt at slime enemies, like, come on, bro. And the fact that they saved this for the last big layer in the game is crazy. It's crazy. And it's such a massive payoff for me that there's no way that this layer couldn't be in the top. My one small gripe about this layer, this is the smallest thing ever, is that sometimes the muck isn't destroyed by the salt in the right way, but that might just be a user error. But man, this layer is so good. The fact that you're literally going to different parts of the theme park and building up a burger to get to the top of the Ferris wheel is so funny. Yeah, I really like this layer. I think it's about as perfect as you could ask for in terms of being like the last big layer in the game. Yeah, it just peaked. And the fact that they put it so far into the game, and it's like, you know what? Like, we'll save one of our best designed gameplay levels for last. It's like, come on, bro. Like, that's some crazy shit. And yeah, no, it works. It works really well. So Forbidden Layer, now it isn't called the Divide or the Junction, but banana-wise, count-wise, I would say it does go in the small layer section. It is definitely the best small layer out of all of them, though. The mechanics in this level and this layer are pretty interesting. It uses this like fractal force field thing that, like, if you throw a chunk through the air, it'll create like a pathway, which is really, really cool. But really what this layer does in the story is it acts as what you think is the final layer of the game. You're about to fight Void Kong for the final time, you know, you're about to do some crazy stuff, about to be at the planet core. And yeah, I think that this layer, if it wasn't for it being the end of the story, would probably be in the low alright tier, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad layer. I think that it does what it needs to do, and some of the new mechanics that are introduced are really cool. I also do like the fact that they basically money check you before you can go fight the final boss. They're like, they do different increments of money amounts you have to pay to unlock the force fields, and I think that I actually like that mechanic because it made it so I actually had to backtrack when I was playing the main story. So I actually had to backtrack, and it allowed me to do some banana collecting. I should have a counter for every time I say fucking moons in this video. But it allowed you to go back, or allowed me to go back and, you know, collect some gold as well as get some other bananas, which was good. I think Forbidden Lair, not Planet Core yet. I think Forbidden Lair works as a very solid penultimate layer to the end of the game. It's just, there's not much you can really do about it because it isn't the end layer of the game. The Planet Core is the end of the layer of the game. So yeah, alright. Obviously, massive spoiler talk. We're about to talk about the end of the game, all of that stuff. I've warned you guys enough, so if you really, really do not want spoilers on the end of the game, click out of the video now. So yeah, you beat Void Kong, you're happy, you go collect your root or whatever, and then Void Kong's like, I'm gonna go get it, I still got one more little punch in me. So he scampers over, and then the big man, King K. Rool, fucking appears, says, fuck you to that monkey. Yeah, guess what? You're chasing King K. Rool to the Planet Core now. And I think this layer is peak for a few different reasons. I don't think this is the best layer in the game. I do think that it might be deserving of top 5. I gotta look at my list here in a little bit. But yeah, this layer is really, really good. So the first thing is the nostalgia factor. Now, I talked about earlier how in the racing layer I liked that there was that little bit of nostalgia factor with Diddy and Dixie, but I also did know that, like, whatever, it's not that big of a deal because the layer itself was very basic mechanic-wise. This time around, the game doesn't actually do anything new mechanics, but what they do is they replace the enemies with the classic Donkey Kong enemies, the classic Donkey Kong Country enemies. So instead of, you know, these gold skull-looking things, it's the Kremlings, and I think the Kremlin crew, and I think that, like, that little change for this last layer works so well to create this environment of, oh shit, you thought it was over? You thought Void Kong was the big baddie? Guess fucking what? King K. Rool's back, and he's got the Kremlin crew too. So yeah, so going through these, this layer is a challenge gauntlet of sorts. There's a bunch of different levels. I think it has the most individual sub-layers. I think it's like 7 of them, maybe 6 or 7, and each of them is like a little mini challenge that has to do with Kremlin naming scheme of some sort. It's really cool. I really did like this layer, and going through it, I just had a smile on my face, to be honest with you. And it's challenging too, like, it's not necessarily easy. The game does ramp up again in difficulty on this layer. If you want to have a final challenge, it makes total sense that you're going to make the difficulty a little higher. And yeah, this layer is sick, and I'm not trying to... I think I do have to count the boss fight with King K. Rool in this layer, and it's just peak. Like, I've been playing Nintendo games since I was, like 5, and I do think that this King K. Rool boss fight from start to finish is probably the best boss fight Nintendo's ever made. From the first part of the level being, like, not super hard, but you're just fighting King K. Rool in this golden arena. You beat him, the fake credits roll out, and then the fake the fake ending, and then he comes up on the Banandium route with Gangplank Galleon playing. Like, it's just so peak. I think that, and then you fucking go to New Donk City and fight him there. You know, the King of Rock form. I think that this fight is just so good that it just I don't know how you beat it. Like, it's just so good. It's just so good. But now we gotta rate Planet Core. I think that Planet Core does deserve to be top 5. And I think what I'm gonna have to do is move Tempest down to here. I'm gonna do this though. I think I would do this. Yeah, I would do this. I would do this. Here we go. The tier list. So, small layers. I think the worst layer in the game is the Junction, then the Divide, then Forbidden Layer. Then for the alright layers, I think these are the 4 weakest layers in the game. You have Landfill, Racing, Inga Isle, and Lagoon Layer. Even though I actually don't think that Inga Isle or Lagoon are weak, I think they're both pretty good. Then we have Groove Layer, Canyon Layer, Hilltop, Freezer Layer, and Tempest, and pretty good. All of these layers are very fun. Literally all of them are good. There's no complaints with any of them. Then in the top tier, you have Resort, Forest, Planet Core, Radiance, and Feast. Particularly these last 3, Feast, Radiance, and Planet Core. You play all of these in the final couple hours of the game, and they are all amazing. Yeah, I think that the fact that what I'm noticing is that the best layers in the game happen to be the ones at the end. So I do think that this game is very end-loaded in terms of the best content. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for the tier list. So thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, I know it really wasn't much. It was just kind of me ranting and talking about what I think about each layer. But yeah, if you enjoyed it, feel free to subscribe. I'm going to be putting out content on this channel regularly now, hopefully. So yeah, welcome to NEWSOUP, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, subscribe. Thank you. Peace.